Today, we're going to talk about what a home inspection is. So, what do you guys as professionals have as a picture of what a home inspection is?
We have as a picture.
Yes, like what do you guys see a home inspection as? Like, what's the purpose and like what is it?
You are there to catch any major items and faults on behalf of the buyer for the house.
Okay, it's a good one. Do you have any other input on that?
To give them confidence in their purchase.
Yep.
By finding the fault.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because I really think you are the point of information, not to dissuade them from buying, but to give them information about how they can move forward confidently in their purchase, about the house.
Exactly. So a home inspection is an education event that happens with the home buying process. So the point of a home inspection is to take the buyers or the sellers and teach them about the home so that they can move forward with confidence on what repairs look like, take away any gray areas and the places that they have concerns about the home. So best way to do that is that you meet them where they are, right? You want to talk with them about it. You want to teach them. And the whole point is not to go into the home and just find everything that's wrong with it, right? The point of it is to go into the home, teach them about the things that are big material defects, big safety concerns, and big things like that, right? So, and then as a home inspector, it's our job to point them back to you as the agents so that you guys can help them with negotiations, right? Because everything's fixable and everything can be worked on. So what are some things that you guys have seen in home inspections that you really like?
That I really like. Particularly, I love anything with the GFCIs, when it goes to the garage, to the kitchen, to the bathrooms, to the laundry rooms. And newly within the last 18 to 24 months, you guys are getting on the roof. And you're calling a lot more on the roof. I've seen the last decade.
Yeah. So looking at roofs, looking at electrical, is there things that you guys like as part of the home inspection, like the report? Like what parts of the report, like the way that it's written, the way the pictures are grouped, any of that kind of stuff? Is there anything that you guys really like about that kind of stuff?
I like it when it's called out at the beginning, because there's a lot of new
Like the
buyers
summary.
that don't, that don't understand, they're overwhelmed. I love number one, that the report comes out very quickly.
Yeah.
But also where it's color coded. So if someone else does the report, it's kind of mushed in somewheres. So I like the summary either at the top or at the bottom, and each section is explained.
Yep.
And I like when there's the link in the summary that goes to the part of the inspection it's referencing with the pictures.
Those hyperlinks, that's a really good option. So what we're talking about for people that understand this, it's called the summary page of the report, right? And what it is it's not the full report, it's just a glossary of all the deficiencies. So it's not going to be even the whole comment of the deficiency, it's just like a hit list of all the things that are in there, right? So generally they're broken up into a couple of different ways. Either they're broken up by deficiency level, or they're broken up by room or section of the home, right? And then inside, if it's rooms or sections, then they'll have them spaced out in those same deficiency levels, which is generally like health and safety, primary concerns, and then like a secondary or a maintenance concern kind of stuff, right? So summary pages are super useful too as you're working with clients, because you can go through it, talk to them about the stuff, you can make check marks, you're not scrolling through the whole page, right? Something that Amanda talked about is called a hyperlink. And there are a lot of reports where you can look at just the first heading line in the summary page and then take it, click on that, and then it'll run you down to the main comment with all the photos or videos and the full write-up and a better description of what's there. And then you can click and then bounce back up to it. So summary page is generally going to be the first part or the last part of a home inspection, and it's a super important part. It's really useful. It is really important, though, that with those deficiencies, you do look at the whole comment that's in the body of the report, right? Because that's going to give you a lot more description on why it was called out, recommendations on how to do the repairs, and then photos so you know where it actually is in the home, right? So the next main part of the report is going to be the main body of the report, and this is going to be the bulk of the inspection, right? So that's where we're going to go through all the stuff that we test in a house, right? So all the plumbing, heating appliances, cooking appliances, showers, tubs, toilets, look at the roofs, crawl spaces, attics, and just look at everything. And as you go through that, it's really good to have an inspection report that has more than just the deficiencies in it, right? An inspection report where you get the green check box for the things that are good. And this is really important for buyers because if they get a report and all that's in that report is a bunch of negative things about the house, and it's not offset with the majority of positive things that are still good about the house, it can paint a hard picture for the home, right? People get discouraged with that, right? So that's something that we do with our reports is that as we check stuff off, we get a green check box with it. So you're scrolling through the report. Most of that report is green check boxes, right? Aside from some pretty hammered places, but everybody knew it was really hammered when we walked in. So that's the important part about the home inspection is. The home inspection is a confidential, should be a confidential document for whoever has signed the agreement and has paid for the inspection, right? So the home inspector needs to only sell it with who, generally the buyer is the one that you're in contract with, only with the people that the buyer has authorized you to share it with, right? So with our inspection reports, when they sign that, they do sign off that they are agreed to share it with just their real estate agent, their professional, right? This is an important negotiation tool during a home buying process because repairs cost money, it can be negotiated and that kind of stuff. It's really important for the home inspector not to talk about things with the sellers or the listing side that could harm that negotiation process, right? So just make sure that whatever home inspection company you guys are using does have that confidentiality. And I'm pretty sure everybody does because it's pretty standard stuff with that. So doing that, and it's a huge point of negotiation. It's one of the highest anxiety points in the home buying process from my experience. And being able to get through that part, get through negotiations and all that kind of stuff, it's really a big deal. So home inspections, they generally take between an hour and a half and 3 hours to do a standard home inspection, right? And that does need to incorporate the entire home, right? Everything that's safe to access, right? So, I mean, obviously this time of year, a lot of home inspectors can't climb up on roofs just because of snow load, ice, and it's just unsafe. There's other tools to use for that. We use drones. There's a couple other companies that use drones to look at roofs too. Getting up in attic spaces and crawl spaces, opening up electrical panels, looking at heating systems, running all the stuff. Like it needs to be a comprehensive inspection of the whole home. There's the two different main licensings for home inspectors is one is InterNACHI, which is what we're a part of. And then also there is ASHI. So they both have a standards of practice that their inspectors are required to follow to be part of those groups. And those are really good. That would be something for you guys if you have time and you need some light reading to fall asleep to. Reading through those huge documents is great about the things that are required to be inspected and things that fall outside the inspection of a standard home inspection. So some of the things that fall outside of that is going to be like hot tubs, saunas, clothes dryers, clothes washers, refrigerators, things like that that are not necessarily considered permanent parts of the home. So
do you ever check in so say a greenhouse or a shed has electrical or heat ran to it, do you ever check those auxiliary
yes.
buildings?
So yes, auxiliary buildings, we charge extra to inspect like a whole exterior shop.
Sure.
If there's a greenhouse or a shed, I will walk out and just check to make sure the electrical or the heat's not sketchy, not gonna burn anything down at no extra charge. But it's not structural, it's not roofing, it's just yep, she's not gonna catch on fire. Now the standards of practice are the minimum requirements to be a home inspector. Most good home inspectors will go above and beyond that and look at the other stuff too, right? So we do look at saunas and some other stuff. I don't do spas because that's way outside my training level. But we'll still talk about that kind of stuff. So understanding what the home inspection covers and what it doesn't cover is important too. So you can set expectations for your clients on what this actually is, right? So one of those things to set those expectations is to tell them what a home inspection is. So a home inspection is a minimally invasive or a comprehensive, non-invasive, visual only inspection, right? Which means that we're not required to damage the home or open things that are permanently sealed and doing that kind of stuff. It also means we don't have x-ray vision, right? I joke about this with people at our inspections. So you set those expectations of what we're doing. I can't see inside walls. So there may be things behind shower surrounds or inside places that we can't see. So helping clients understand that there can be things that get missed just because of the nature of the way that a home's built and been lived in, repairs that were done that nobody really knows about, how they were done by a homeowner, that kind of stuff. And that, so also a home inspection is not for cosmetic things, right? So like bad paint, bad texture repairs, bad drywall repairs, tape lines that are popped, you know, things that are not a huge material defect to the home generally don't end up in a home inspection. And the reasons for that is that it would clutter up an inspection, because if we talked about every nail hole that we saw inside a house where somebody hung in a picture, like nobody would let us inside their houses. So setting the expectations with that. And then the other thing too is the quick turnaround time that's important with that. Letting them know how long it's going to take for that inspection to come back out, right? So most of the inspection companies are 24 hours or less, which is really important. That way it doesn't block up your guys' timelines on doing repair requests, rolling through and all that kind of stuff. Let's talk about technologies that should be used during a home inspection. So one of the pieces of equipment, two pieces of equipment that I think are irreplaceable on a home inspection. One of those is a thermal camera. The thermal camera shows us hot spots and cool spots. With that information, you can learn three really important things about homes. One of them is if you've got low insulation, major heat loss, air gaps, different stuff like that. The home I was looking at today in Willow was a log home, and behind some of the trim, it was open to the exterior of the home. We had major drafting coming, and it's something that it was in a place where you couldn't really get to it, but with the thermal camera, it showed up on the picture. We were able to look at it and say, yep, just needs to get sealed up and we're good to go. But that's something that could cause issue with moisture intrusion and stuff like that. So
Is that part of your normal inspection process?
yes, so we include the thermal camera at no charge with our standard inspection prices. Some inspectors upcharge for it, some don't. I don't believe it's right to upcharge if somebody decides they want to save $50 and not pay for it, and then they don't get the same quality of home inspection. All of our services, there's no extra upcharge for any of those. So the drones, the thermal cameras, the moisture meters, all that stuff just comes in with our all-inclusive pricing. So hidden moisture. So thermal cameras pick up hot and cold. Water, as it evaporates, it shows cool signatures, right? So this is where the moisture meter is a super important part of using the two together. Because just because something shows up cool does not mean it's wet. So if you have a different paint sheen, a different texture underneath the paint, or a lot of things, and it just reflects that heat a little bit different, because most thermal cameras will read down to 1/10 of a degree. So it doesn't take much for a color differential to show up on that, right? So having that non-invasive moisture meter to test that spot to see if it's dry or wet is super important. There's two types of moisture meters. So there's a non-invasive moisture meter, which has a electromagnetic field behind it that will read in 3/4 of an inch just through contact. So you can test drywall and all kinds of stuff, flooring, tile surrounds.
Does it go through Blue Board?
Yes. Not all the way through Blue Board. Yeah, like 3/4 of an inch. Yeah. So do the surface of Blue Board. And then, but it doesn't damage anything. So you can put it over any type of finish and there's no marks or marring or anything left behind it. The other type of moisture meter is called an invasive moisture meter. And what it does is it has two probes that go in, and you run them in, and the moisture creates the contact between the 2 points and lets you know how much is in there. The resistance from the water lets you know the moisture content in there. So those are used for like doing foundation probings through insulation walls when we have permission to actually damage a home. So that's not something that a home inspector should be using. They should not be using a pinned moisture meter on drywall or anything like that. On carpet, it doesn't matter. But like a pin moisture meter, like you don't want to be pushing holes in somebody else's house. So thermal camera does that. Also on older homes, especially some of the 60s homes in Anchorage, some of the 70s homes in the Valley, I found quite a few framing defects with thermal cameras. We actually did one that way. We had a big wall that had a ton of earthquake damage. We couldn't figure out what was going on with it. And when we looked at it, the studs are a little bit cooler to the wall framing than the insulation. And we found out that the walls were framed 30 inches on center, which is
Way
too far. It's at least 6 inches and really close to like 20 inches too far from where it needs to be. So that was the issue for that. There's always fixes for that kind of stuff. But it's a good way for us to look inside the home without damaging it. I joke about it being X-ray, it's as close to X-ray vision as I can get without gamma rays. So, that's something that's cool, and that's something too that like ask your home inspector that you guys are using if they use that thing. And how well they're trained on it. Do they actually have thermography training to handle it well? Because it's important to be able to understand what the camera shows you. Internachi and ASHI both have courses for the home inspectors to take that are free of charge membership. They're both like 80-hour courses. So like they're a pretty intense course to be able to use it well. So it's not like just ordering one off Amazon, using it and being like, yep, this is what this is. So that's something that I've seen in technology that's really important. The drones are good. That's one of those things that a good ladder and some other things can replace a drone. But definitely those thermal cameras need to be part of the home inspection. One of the other things that's important is that your home inspector is open and willing to have the buyers with them at the inspection, because there's always things that the buyer has questions about that come up when they're there, right? And the inspection report is for the buyers, right? So them being there to learn from the inspector, him to show them things, because there's always more that we can teach somebody that doesn't need to go into a report, like maintenance things, or like, hey, watch this. Like, it's not wrong, it's not broken right now, but hey, like, as you own this home, when you change your furnace filter, check the condensation lines also, right? And that's not something we can put in the report because it's more education than that, right? So
I tell my buyers, like, you're there to make sure the house is safe, to show deficiencies, but you're also there to teach them about the house and how it works.
that's right.
Is that fair?
Correct, 100%. Like it's an education process, the home inspection is, right? So it needs to be a home inspector that does not mind that and is a relatively good teacher while they're there, right? And like people at different levels of teachers all the way across the board and that kind of stuff. But it's an important part of the process. So that's what I've got about what a home inspection is. Like, seems like most of you guys have done several of them already. We don't have too many new agents today. Do you guys have any questions about what home inspections are or why things get put certain ways?
I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm a heavy listing agent and buyers too, but a lot of the times I'll get these reports and I say, okay, these things are wrong. Okay, and there's a way to fix them most of the time, right? Are you open to questions calling, say, hey, Ben, I saw you on behalf of your buyer, these things. I'm looking at this fix with this, should you do a re-inspect, fix that issue?
Yeah, I am totally okay with that. So I do not tell anybody how to fix something unless it's like, hey, there's a missing smoke alarm, put a new smoke alarm up, right? Like that's low hanging fruit. The reason I don't do that is that I'm not a professional in all the trades, right? And there's lots of industry tools and practices and materials that I don't know about that can fix the same problem 10 different ways. Some of them are more cost effective, some of them work better for different scenarios. If I pigeonhole and say it has to be fixed this way, it can put a huge wrench in the monkey works, right?
Sure.
And as far as answering questions, I'm always open to questions like, hey, what's this supposed to look like when we're done? I'm like, hey, it needs to look like this, right? And that doesn't bother me at all from the buyers, the sellers, the contractors. And that's another important thing for like the home inspector to be open to questions about it, right? Like, hey, because like there's things we talk about and people may not understand it. Like they need to be open to conversations about the report in a non-hostile way, right? We all have bad days, that happens, but overall it needs to be somebody that's open to, opening to answering the questions about the reports and being willing to look at a question and admit that if they did something wrong with it, or like, oh yeah, hey, that's right, the electrician is right, this isn't code, or no, you're right, he is right, it does need to be plumbed this way, right? Because at the end of the day, the industry professional with the licensing in there has the knowledge that we don't, right? So I always defer to them as the professional in that field. There's been a couple of times with electricians where I've come back and I'm like, no, that's just not wrong. This guy's a hack. But by and large, most of our contractors that are used know what they're doing and they know how to take care of it and that kind of stuff.
I have a particular question.
Okay.
And this might just because I've seen it too many times. I'll fully state that. Dryer vents.
Mhm.
Can't be corrugated, they have to be hard sided.
Not sure.
Well, it always goes back and report like that. I was just wondering why, because there's some washers and dryers, this instance dryers, where they're just in weird spots. And you can't do hard sided venting. It needs the soft corrugated to do it.
Yep. So inside the municipality, so there's three main types of dryer vents. So there's like the foil wrapped wire, like we've seen from when we were kids. It looks like an accordion that comes in and out real easy. That type of ductwork is not allowed inside the municipality of Anchorage. It is legal in the Matthew Valley to use for the first 8 feet of ductwork from the dryer to the wall. Once that dryer ductwork enters the wall, it needs to be a rigid, smooth walled, continuous ductwork, right? So what it is it's the dryer connector pipe is what we're talking about. So you can do a rigid line connection, which is like smooth wall, hooks in, they're a pain in the butt. There's also a flexible aluminum one. So, and that one is legal inside the municipality of Anchorage. So they are UL listed for that use. If the dryer is in the garage though, it has to be built out of 26 gauge sheet metal or greater, which usually means that it has to be the smooth wall hard stuff. And that's for fire code. It's like anytime you have ductwork, like that's a thing, like it's too flexible, it can melt it can come in. It's the same for like HRVs can use flex duct in your crawl spaces and attics, but they can't use it when it's installed in a garage space. So, so that's the answer with that. It depends on the city where it's at, but by code, the flexible ones are accepted. And I've talked to the municipality of Anchorage and they do accept those flexible aluminum ductworks to connect the dryer to the wall.
And what's your service area?
Nobody catching you.
Oh,
I do. I service the whole state. Yeah, I actually did go to Nome this year. Kotzebue a couple of times. So standard pricing applies to from the Talkeetna cutoff all the way to Indian, south of Anchorage. Like there's no travel charges, just what's on there. We get outside of that radius, there is travel charges applied and stuff like that. But yeah, I do go out to the villages. I went out to Cold Bay, go back out there again this spring. So yeah, the whole state. I go to Fairbanks a couple times a year, Glen Allen.
Do you focus primarily on residential or else are you commercial?
I do both. So right now, most of my work is residential. I do like commercial a lot because same thing in real estate, bigger job, bigger. Same amount of work.
What about
yeah.
construction certification, Ben?
Yes, so that's a good point. So
what are you saying?
new construction. So let's talk about new construction and existing home certification. So inside the state of Alaska, there are 2 separate licensings for a home inspector. One of them is the existing homes, which is a home that's been lived in for 1 day by the homeowner. The other one is a new construction certification, and that is for the whole process from when the footers are laid until somebody has lived in the home for 1 night. So legally, an existing home inspector is not allowed to inspect a home that is new construction or any of the phases of a new construction home. It's not a valid inspection and the builder can throw it out as something that is not a qualified inspection, right? So if you're working with new construction clients, make sure that the inspector is certified for new construction. And that is done through the ICC, International Code Compliance. And they're either going to be IBC certified or IRC certified. And that's going to be International Building Code or International Residential Code. They're the same, it's the same knowledge. The International Building Code covers more, like does residential plus commercial, where the residential code is just applied to 4 units or below, as far as code building practices and stuff like that. So we are, Ridgeline is certified both new construction and existing homes. About half of the inspection companies in Alaska are certified both ways. Yeah.
Ben, one more thing. So
Yeah.
I know you said that what a home inspection is and what a home inspection isn't.
Yeah.
I know you talked a little bit about it, but what inspections do you not do? Like well and septic, heating inspections. Like give me a list of the things that as a home inspector you do not inspect so that people are aware.
Perfect. Yeah. So home inspectors do not look at septic systems, water wells, public water mains outside the foundation, sewer systems, and that kind of stuff. Those are generally need to be done by somebody that holds an engineer's license. And And then HVAC inspections, like Brian talked about, so that's gonna be boilers, furnaces, fireplaces, gas fireplaces, wood stoves, garage heaters, unit heaters, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna look at the outside of it. But with this being a non-invasive inspection, we're not gonna open up those units. We don't have the tools, the training, or the parts to put them back together. So the HVAC inspection needs to be done by somebody that's certified as an HVAC professional. And one of the other reasons for that is they carry a higher licensing and they're professionals in that field too, right? So, do that one, we don't inspect sprinkler systems or hardwired fire alarms. That needs to be done by somebody that carries a fire suppression licensing. So that's gonna be out of there. And then, medical facilities require special licensing too, on top of like a standard residential or a commercial field. There's a bunch of code compliance stuff with hospitals. It's a lot different also, or even like dentist office and that kind of stuff too. So,
Like yard sprinkler systems either though, right?
so we do look at, irrigation systems are. The connection between the irrigation system and the home is inspected as part of a home inspection because that's a potential for cross-contamination of drinking water and groundwater. What runs in the ground is not inspected during residential home inspection. Some other testings that some home inspectors do is going to be like radon, mold, lead, and asbestos. So these are services that I don't offer. These are services that I have good subcontractors that I can use with. One of the main reasons I do that is that I want to refer to somebody that does this every day and understands it and they just geek out on that kind of stuff. Those can be very useful inspections and stuff. Radon is something that I'm seeing a lot more this year. So this may be something that we step into this world here over the next 12 months, get all licensed up and all that. I do have all the training to do it. I just haven't bought the equipment or done that kind of stuff. And mold. My background is doing restoration work, so I know what it looks like. If I see something like that, we'll talk about it and say like, hey, you guys should get this tested some more. So let's talk about mold for just a quick second in home inspections. In most home inspections, it will not be a or a health and safety deficiency. Legally, we cannot call it that because we do not have a laboratory test 100% identifying it. When it is 100% identified as a toxic strain of mold, then it can be converted to a health and safety thing. Because if we just speculate on, because we don't know, all we can see is an organic or microbial growth, right? We don't know what it is. Color doesn't tell us anything. Texture doesn't tell us anything. Odor doesn't tell us anything about that. It's all about, they pull a swab, they send it to the laboratory, they culture it, they look at it, and they're like, yeah, all right, you got some funkies that need to get taken care of. So that is why that a lot of times it will not be a health and safety thing during a general home inspection because we can't 100% identify it. And it hangs the home inspector out legally if we make a claim that we can't back up with proper documentation. So, yeah. And I think that kind of covers all of it, Brian, doesn't it? Oh, property lines and surveying. So as-built, surveying and stuff like that too, identifying property lines and that kind of stuff falls outside of a standard home inspection. Also, that's going to be a surveyor that's going to be doing that kind of stuff.
The only other question that I would ask about is what about like outbuildings and large sheds and things like that? What's the difference between whether you inspect it, whether it's considered a shop and you do inspect it? Kind of give us a little bit of a lowdown on that.
Totally. So I'll inspect anything somebody's willing to pay me to inspect. Right. So standard garden sheds, they don't have any electrical and stuff. I'll take a quick look at them. And even if they just have a little bit of electrical to them, like a greenhouse that has like an electric heater and like one circuit, like that's just included with it. Right. We always look at the properties before we go out to them to see what kind of outbuildings are there and that kind of stuff. And I'll talk with the clients about, hey, I can look at this shop. It's going to be another $100 on to inspect it and go through it as thoroughly as we went through the whole house too. So like all the electrical, heating, mechanical, plumbing, attics that we can get into them, all that kind of stuff that's there. So most of the time people don't want those things looked at, right? Like the little things, like the little sheds or the chicken coop or that kind of stuff. But most of the time it's just a conversation of like, hey, do you want this inspected also? Because it's not just the main home. Some other home inspectors may just include it with their pricing. You go take a look at it and talk about it. the way we do it is we break it up into two separate buildings. So that as you guys go into negotiations, you have the deficiencies from the shop and then deficiencies from the home. And you can talk about this separately and it's a lot less confusing. Because sometimes the shop's there, it's a bonus, it's great, but nobody cares about fixing anything of it. Right? They just need a list of stuff that they might want to fix down the road someday.
Perfect. I think that gets about it.
Cool, right on, guys. Well, I'm gonna do another one next month, and we're gonna talk about terminologies on the interior of the home and what like some of the verbiage and terms for different components are, so that you guys understand what that is. So you can help learn how big a deal this is. Like, is this that big a deal, or is this just a fancy word that doesn't mean anything, right? So, cool. So we'll do that next week, probably the same Tuesday next month, and we'll have a good time with that, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it, buddy.
See you guys.
Thank you so much.